this video, I'm breaking down exactly how I made this Minecraft thumbnail for Carry Depie. Step by step, no skipping. This is a breakdown and I'll show you what I did, why I did it, and how you can match that same quality for yourself. Most people think to make a pro Minecraft thumbnail, you need to throw in 50 PNGs, crazy effects, lens flares, text everywhere, just basically make it loud. But that's not actually what makes a thumbnail work. It's about keeping it simple and focused and psychology driven, using lighting, color, and composition to guide the viewer's eyes exactly where you want them. So in this video, I'll show you my full process from an empty Photoshop canvas to a final export, explaining every single move I made so you can create thumbnails that look clean, professional, and clickable. And by the way, if you want to follow along while designing your own, I made a free thumbnail psychology checklist. It's right below in the description. It's the same one I use for every thumbnail project, and it'll help you to remember all the key things that make a thumbnail actually perform. All right, let's open Photoshop and get started. So let's break this down. The way that I did this, I basically took a reference image from Google and I said to ChatGPT, I want the texture of this flooring, right? And then it gave me this. Now, what I did is basically, as you can see, if I move this up, I just used perspective to get this into perspective. The thing that I did with the wall is actually, it was one image and I basically merged them together. You can scale it down and you can just Control J on the layer and then you can basically just attach it to this part, right? And you can also, like, if you use the arrow keys, you can nudge it. You can nudge it in so it falls over this, and this way it actually already blends very well. So then I had this wall and this flooring, right? Now, as of this moment, and that's the beauty of doing it with ChatGPT. So when I first started out doing this, it was actually through photo manipulation. The thing is, back then, you didn't have no ChatGPT that could generate these images for you. You actually had to go on the internet and then find a bunch of stock photos that you basically had to look at, like, okay, does it have the same perspective? How is the lighting? Am I able to get the shadows and the lighting correct to my own composition and all that stuff? While with ChatGPT, you can basically, you know, like, have a flat image and make sure that all the shadows, the lighting, the contrast, whatever you want to do to it, you can do that manually, okay? So that's why I think ChatGPT is a good addition. The next thing I did, I went to the screen. Let me show you what this screen is made up of. So this was actually just a simple monitor. I genuinely like this. This is so cool because it gives the actual feeling that, you know, somebody is in that room recording that, you know, like looking at a recording or at a live footage. But the problem is, like, if we scroll out to about 10%, which is over here, right? You can see it over here. We're 10% zoomed out. So secret room, definitely readable, but everything below that, you know, like the recording and stuff, it's not readable. And even though it's super, super nice to have it in there, I just think that it's more of a distraction than anything else just because of, you know, how people view it on mobile. The thing is this, so I had ChatGPT generate this monitor. Now, ChatGPT gave me this and it was basically on a reference from this, right? So it didn't do a bad job, you know, it's actually like the text over here is actually super cool. It just wasn't what I was looking for. So what I did is I simply took a rectangle and I drew it all the way over here. And this is also for, you know, so that I can clip things in it. So if you look at this, then it's actually the one that's clipped to it. Then you have the actual room. And this had some editing as well because the room wasn't like this when I got it. Like, I had to do some clone stamping over here and all that stuff. If you want to use the clone stamp, right, which is right here, you just make a new layer and up here, right, when you select when you press S for the clone stamp, you can see sample. I do all layers simply because then, you know, it's not getting in my way in any shape or form. So you put that on all layers. You can hold Alt and then you see this this kind of like this, you know, like it's like a target, whatever you want to call it. You click, it samples. Whatever you clicked on, you know, like it's basically what you copy. And the reason why I did that is because the image had some blues in here and I didn't like that. It just doesn't fit the image, makes it look horrible in my opinion. Now, the teacher. This was actually funny as well because when I generated this teacher, and that was based on the reference image as well from the you know, the actual thumbnail. I needed to get this guy out of there. But the thing is, it had both his arms down here. So at first it gave me this image, right? So it had the stick and it had it out, right? But, you know, the stick is not really in the middle. It's maybe my OCD, I don't know, but I didn't like it, so I made sure it's back in the middle, and this is the guy that I actually used in the image. Okay, so this is how I did that. So let's say this is the arm, right? I'm just doing it for just really quick to show you. Then I press B, make this smaller, and then you can just get rid of this part, right? And it won't go outside of the selection. And then I basically selected this same way that I just did, selected it, pressed, then selected the layer, you know, from this arm, and then pressed Control J. The reason why is then it makes a duplicate of whatever I selected, and then from the main layer, I can get rid of this stick, right? Which is very simple. Like if you want to get rid of something, we're in 2025, you know, you just go over your object or subject, whatever, you click on Generative Fill, and then Generate, and it will get rid of it. Then the second one, very easy as well. So basically what I did is have a screen overlay. So what I did is I just went to Google, I just grabbed a screen overlay from an actual TV, as you can see over here, and then I set the blend mode to hard light. Now, you know, like I know a lot of people think like, oh, what blend mode should I use? And look, you just have to go through it. Like, I don't always know what blend mode I'm gonna use beforehand. I'll just go through it, see what looks best, what looks more to my liking, whether I go for realism or whatnot, doesn't matter. So the next one, I had another overlay, and I just thought this one was cool, and the reason why is because of the texture. And texture is not only used because it's nice, texture can also be used for contrast, you know, because look at the difference. If I get rid of it, right, it feels more like this part belongs to the rest. You know, it doesn't really stand out too much. But as soon as I put this on, then you see it becomes distinctive from the rest of the image, right? Now, the main character. So this one took me a hell of a lot to get right, you know, simply because let me find the actual image. Okay, there we go. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to recreate this guy, right? But let me show you the actual image that ChatGPT gave me. There we go. Like you can see the difference to what I did with the character to make sure that he looked like the guy in the actual thumbnail, right? Like even to the smallest detail, which honestly you're probably not gonna see, but you know, to me as a designer, I just felt like it had to be in there, right? This guy, you know, like he had some socks on, the coloring was off, like nothing was really like the guy in the thumbnail, right? And I was like, I can keep on generating and using prompts and whatnot, but hey, I'm a graphic designer, man. I can do this by myself. We don't need AI for that. We got AI to, you know, help us and do a great portion of the work, but like the fine details and everything, making it perfect, that's up to us, right? Now, I'm not gonna do it as precise as I did it yesterday, but basically what you wanna do, you just wanna go over the edge of the whole shirt, right? So let me just take a little portion of it, right? And then you have a selection of this, of the shirt, okay? What you then do is you go to Hue and Saturation, you clip it to the actual dude, and then what you want to do is you want to get rid of the saturation, right? See, then it becomes gray already, but if you play around with the lightness, it becomes white. And the good thing about this as well is the shadows are integrated into this as well. So that's basically how I did that for everything. And for over here, so let's say I want this leg to be extended, right? So what I just did is I went over this like so. Then I click on this dude and then Control J. Now, what did Control J do? It duplicates the selection. Now, if you press Control T, you select it and you can actually move that up. And what I like to do is I like to have a little overshoot, you know, it makes sense in a bit as to why I'm doing this. Now, what we're gonna do is we're going to warp this, right? Like we wanna make sure that it actually matches the leg, right? We wanna make sure that it matches the leg. Now, you can do this as much as you want, because now what you can do is you can make a layer mask, opacity to 40, and then I'll actually grab my pen for this, but you can do this with a mouse as well. I like to do it with a pen. And you can go over this hard cut. Oh, look at that. You blend it nicely together as if it belongs there, you know? Let's put that down a little bit more. Now, you want to repeat that a couple of times. You want to make sure that, you know, everything is aligned well. Then, the overall lighting of the wall, okay? Now, because I did the sketch over here, I knew that there was going to be a screen over here. And as we all know, if the screen is on, it's going to cast light, right? That's why I knew, okay, like if there's light coming off, you can see that it's dark on the outside, right? Like right over here, it's dark over here. And then there's a bit of light coming through over here, right? So how you do this, you have your exposure and you just play with it. Like if you're like, okay, this is about the darkness that I want, right? And obviously for in this image over here, like the wall is separate from the actual screen, right? But this is just for example's sake. Now, what you can do is you press on the layer mask, and what you want to do is you want to get rid of darkness, right? So if you want to get rid of something, we use black. Increases to 75%. Now you can paint over the areas that you want lit, right? So for example, over here is going to be brighter. Over here it's going to be brighter, right? But anyways, that's how I did the lighting. I did that the same for the floor. So now we basically, you know, like I didn't go through how I made the watch and all that stuff, but like it's the same principles, right? Let's actually go over the highlights, okay? Because I think that's a nice one for you guys to know as well. So what you do is you create a new layer, right? You create a new layer, then you have your black color over here on the left as your foreground color. Then you press Alt, backspace. Okay, we turn this into a smart object. And also what you do is you make this screen. Okay, blending mode screen. Then what you want to do is you want to grab a gradient map. So what you basically do is you go from black, you go to the darker color, then you go to a lighter color, and then you go to white. Okay, so let's say you want that highlighted. Let's zoom into it. Now let's say this is what you want, right? You convert this to a smart object, then you go to filter, you go to stylize, all paint, you put all of this up to 10, turn lighting off, okay? And then you can see it basically smoothens out, right? Like this is not perfect yet. So what I like to do is I like to turn this into a layer mask, you know, and I like to make it perfect basically. So, you know, just go over this and make it more, you know, make it smoother basically. So I don't like how it goes to the inside over here, so I'll just make sure that it's more like this. Then what I did is I created this haziness, the kind of like a bloom effect. The way that you do that is you just go over here, solid color, you grab your color of preference. To me it was more like this, because as soon as you grab linear dodge, which is what you're going to use to make these this bloom effect, right? And then you just invert the mask, and then like let's say you want it over here, you can just paint over this. That's basically what I did with this as well. Just subtle effect. And that's basically it. So then the final piece is when actually comes together, when everything comes together, right? What I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that this part over here was the most prominent, the most visible, right? It's a very simple, like if you put everything together, like the techniques that are being used are not that simple, it's advanced techniques. We want to make sure that people stop and click in a split second. They want to see that thumbnail, damn, that's what I want to watch, click. You know, and that there's some psychology behind that is necessary. That's contrast, that's highlighting what you want people to see. You know, it has to come down to what is it that people want to see in this video? You know, what is the focal point? And it has to match the title. You know, the thumbnail and the title, they have to match, okay? And the way I did this is if you go to camera raw filter, you can actually see all the things that I've done over here. A lot of people think that, again, there is some formula for this, but it's genuinely just going through everything, adjusting the sliders, and then match it to your liking. And not only to your liking, also like what is it that you want to achieve with it. So yeah, this is basically what I went through. I adjusted the contrast, the whites, you know, I did a little bit of saturation, just a little bit. You know, if I turn this off, you can actually see the difference. Like effects, this is one of my favorite things to do, and that's actually increasing the texture. You know, but it really makes it pop like that. Some clarity, got a little bit of vignette, not too much. And I did just a tiny bit of color grading, like the shadows, I got a bit of blue in it. And for the midtones, I got more orangey in it. And that is the full breakdown. Every single step that went into this Minecraft thumbnail. See, it doesn't have to be overloaded with effects or random elements. If you keep it simple, build contrast, and highlight what matters, you'll automatically get the professional look everyone is chasing. Now, if you want something that helps you remember these exact steps, I made a free thumbnail psychology checklist, and it's linked right below. Like I said, it's the same list that I use before I design, and it'll help you to stay focused on stuff that actually drives clicks. If you found this helpful, drop a like, subscribe, and let me know which creator's thumbnail I should recreate next. My name is Marcus, and I see you back in a split second. Peace.